What happens when Europe arrives expecting America to mishandle football, then discovers stadiums, crowds, travel, and hospitality operating on a scale it never imagined? The country dismissed as too much suddenly feels perfectly built for the world's biggest tournament. 5 American strengths are now forcing visiting fans to reconsider everything the headlines taught them, and some are leaving with a confession they never expected to make. Perhaps no one hosts the World Cup quite like America. America was ready. European fans arrived in America carrying 2 kinds of luggage, one filled with shirts, scarves, and flags, and another packed by years of headlines telling them exactly what America was supposed to be. Too loud, too spread out, too commercial, too complicated, and somehow still unprepared for real football. Then they walked toward an American stadium and discovered that the country had been quietly preparing for an event like this every single weekend. That is the first reason America feels so convincing as a World Cup host. The infrastructure does not look borrowed for the tournament. It looks like the tournament finally caught up with America.
It's mad in here, it's all air conditioned. Absolutely mad.
American stadiums are next level. I've waited until the end of the England game to show you this. There's a roof above my head, there's air conditioning units, it's 35 degrees outside and you wouldn't even know in here.
In cities such as London, Milan, or Paris, football stadiums often sit inside neighborhoods that grew around them over many decades. That closeness creates history, atmosphere, and a powerful sense of local identity, although it can also mean narrow streets, limited parking, crowded train platforms, and residents watching thousands of supporters pass beneath their bedroom windows. American stadiums usually tell a different story. They rise beside highways, enormous plazas, transport zones, hotels, restaurants, and parking lots large enough to make a visiting fan wonder whether another stadium is hidden somewhere inside them. For someone from Amsterdam or Copenhagen, where daily life is built around compact streets, bicycles, and short distances, the American scale can feel almost theatrical. Yet after a few hours, that scale begins to make practical sense. Wide entrances absorb crowds instead of squeezing them. Huge concourses allow families, international supporters, staff, vendors, and security teams to move without performing an accidental group hug. Restrooms, food counters, digital signs, elevators, and giant screens are treated as essential parts of the experience, rather than small details everyone hopes will somehow survive halftime.
This might honestly be the best stadium I've ever seen. Look at this. Oh my word. This place is incredible.
This is where the old media picture starts losing its grip. European visitors may have expected disorder, but what they encounter is a country deeply experienced in moving large crowds while keeping the mood relaxed. America has spent decades hosting NFL games, college football weekends, baseball championships, basketball finals, concerts, conventions, and festivals where one parking lot can contain more grills than a small Texas county. The humor is that many Europeans believed America did not understand football culture, while America understood something equally important: how to make 70,000 people feel that the day was designed for them personally. The sport may have arrived from elsewhere, but the event machine is unmistakably American. After several days, the stadium no longer feels oversized. It feels generous. The distance no longer feels wasteful. It feels like breathing room. Even the giant screen starts to seem less like excess and more like a polite national promise that nobody paid for a seat just to study the back of someone else's hat. Perhaps that is why some visitors begin speaking about America with unexpected affection. They came expecting a country that needed to prove itself. Instead, they found one that had already built the stage, opened the gates, fired up the grills, and saved them a seat. America shrinks. Distant European fans expected America's size to become the tournament's biggest headache. Yet the country turned that enormous map into one of its most impressive advantages. A journey between 2 American host cities can cover more ground than crossing several European borders. But distance feels very different in a nation that has spent generations learning how to move people across an entire continent. Europe naturally trusts the railway. From Brussels, supporters can reach Paris, Amsterdam, London, or Cologne with the kind of convenience that makes national borders feel almost decorative. America developed another instinct because its cities were never going to sit politely within a 2-hour train ride of one another. It built a travel culture around major airports, interstate highways, regional connections, rental cars, hotel shuttles, and road signs large enough to guide someone who realizes 6 lanes too late that their exit is approaching. That difference can seem strange to visitors from the Netherlands or Belgium, where missing a turn might cost 5 minutes. In Texas, missing the correct exit can feel like accidentally beginning a new chapter of your life. Yet once European supporters experience the system, many begin to understand why Americans remain so calm about distances that would make a London commuter check whether their passport is still valid. The 2026 World Cup includes 48 teams and 104 matches across 16 host cities in the United States, Canada, and Mexico, with 11 of those cities located in the United States. Organizing that scale requires more than a timetable and several optimistic arrows on a map. It demands a country already accustomed to domestic flights, interstate journeys, large hotel districts, event shuttles, and sports crowds arriving from hundreds of miles away. America has rehearsed this routine for decades. FIFA recorded 3,587,538 spectators at the 1994 World Cup in the United States, an average of nearly 69,000 people per match. That record was achieved when soccer occupied a much smaller place in American culture, which makes the accomplishment even more revealing. The country did not need every visitor to understand the sport before it could understand the assignment. What becomes addictive for foreign fans is the sense of freedom hidden inside all that distance. They can watch a match in one region, fly to another city, rent a car, stop at a roadside diner, cross a state line, and suddenly find themselves in a completely different landscape. A European tournament often offers the pleasure of closeness. An American tournament offers the thrill of movement, where the journey becomes part of the memory rather than an inconvenient gap between two games. This is also where years of gloomy media coverage begin to look incomplete. Visitors had heard that American cities were disconnected and difficult to navigate, yet they discover a country built around options. When one route does not suit them, another usually appears through the airport, highway, shuttle system, or local transport network. America rarely promises that everything will be close, but it has become remarkably good at making far away feel reachable. After several days, those long roads stop looking empty and begin feeling open. The airport becomes a gateway rather than an obstacle, while the highway starts resembling a ribbon tying together different versions of the same country. European supporters came fearing that America was too large for the World Cup, then found themselves loving the very scale they had been warned about. America does not shrink its geography for international visitors. It simply hands them the keys and makes the distance feel like an invitation. America spoils fans. European supporters often arrive believing that a serious football tournament should make fans work a little for the experience. You stand in line, study 3 confusing signs, carry a warm drink through a narrow concourse, and somehow feel that surviving the inconvenience proves your loyalty. America looks at that tradition with great respect, then quietly brings out another restroom, a larger food court, an accessible entrance, and an employee whose entire job appears to be helping one confused family find Section 214. This is the third reason the United States feels unusually prepared for the World Cup. American sports culture treats the spectator as part of the main event.
Service that's just insane. I actually can't cope. I'm so overwhelmed. I feel like I'm going to get in the car and cry my eyes out.
I really hope people don't take this for granted, because America is safe, America is clean, America is friendly.
In England, Germany, Italy, and Spain, football grew from local communities where many supporters knew the route, the neighborhood, and even the rhythm of the stadium before they reached the gate. That familiarity creates belonging. The American model was shaped by a different reality. Fans often drive from another city, bring children or grandparents, visit a venue only once, and expect to spend several hours inside. The building therefore has to explain itself clearly, almost like a friendly uncle who knows you will never admit that you are lost. That philosophy can be seen in the smallest details. Gates are numbered in giant type. Staff members stand where people naturally hesitate. Mobile tickets, digital maps, colored zones, accessible seating, family restrooms, concession counters, and repeated announcements reduce the number of decisions a visitor must make under pressure. None of these features looks heroic on television, but together they prevent an international crowd from turning into 70,000 people asking the same question at once. American accessibility standards also have deep legal roots. The Americans with Disabilities Act was signed into law in 1990, requiring public venues to provide better access for people with disabilities. Over time, that helped make ramps, elevators, wheelchair seating, accessible restrooms, and companion spaces a normal part of major event planning. For an elderly supporter, a parent with a stroller, or a fan with limited mobility, good organization is not a luxury. It decides whether the day feels welcoming or exhausting. This fan-first approach can feel almost suspicious to visitors accustomed to more restrained service. An usher smiles, calls someone "Sir," and walks them halfway to the correct section, while the European fan briefly wonders whether they have accidentally been upgraded to ownership of the team. After a few days, however, the friendliness becomes dangerously easy to enjoy. That is the addictive part. America removes tiny frustrations before they have time to become bad memories. A clear sign saves 10 minutes. A patient worker prevents an argument. A clean restroom rescues halftime. A cold drink on a hot afternoon can improve international relations more effectively than several official speeches. European football offers tradition that cannot be manufactured, especially in places such as Liverpool, Dortmund, Naples, or Madrid, where the stadium feels tied to the identity of the city. America contributes another kind of generosity. It asks whether the visitor is comfortable, informed, included, and still enjoying the day after the final whistle. The media may describe the United States as impatient, divided, and overly commercial, yet many foreign fans meet a completely different country at ground level. They find ordinary Americans helping strangers, staff members solving problems without drama, and venues built around the belief that every ticket holder deserves to feel considered. Europe taught the world how to love football. America may be teaching the World Cup how to take better care of the people who came to love it. The parking lot wins. For many European supporters, the matchday atmosphere begins in a pub, a city square, or on a train platform filled with scarves and nervous predictions. In America, the celebration may begin beside a pickup truck, under a folding canopy, with smoke rising from a grill before the stadium gates have even opened. At first, that can look like people have confused the World Cup with a family reunion. After one afternoon, however, most visitors understand that the confusion is exactly where the magic lives. Tailgating reveals something deeply American about the way this country hosts sport. Waiting is not treated as dead time that must be endured before kickoff. Americans take those empty hours, add food, music, folding chairs, coolers, flags, and several people who insist their barbecue sauce is protected by family law, then turn the parking lot into a temporary neighborhood. That feels very different from the pre-match traditions of cities such as Dortmund, Liverpool, Madrid, or Marseille. European fan culture often grows through compact streets, local bars, public transport, and familiar meeting points that have carried the same songs for generations. The American version has more room to spread its elbows. Instead of fitting the celebration inside an old city, supporters build a small city of their own for the afternoon. The scale behind this culture is enormous. According to NCAA attendance figures, college football attracted more than 48 million spectators across all divisions in 2023. Many of those game days began hours before the players appeared, because arriving early is part of the ritual rather than a punishment for poor scheduling. American fans have spent decades learning how to turn anticipation into entertainment, which gives a global tournament something money alone cannot manufacture. A welcoming atmosphere that already knows how to fill time. What foreign visitors often find irresistible is the casual hospitality. A grill may belong to one family, but the smell has no respect for property lines. Someone notices a foreign jersey, asks where the visitor came from, then offers food before learning how to pronounce the city correctly. 5 minutes later, people who support different countries are discussing lineups beside a cooler as though they have shared a driveway for years. This is where the gloomy version of America seen through overseas headlines begins to feel strangely narrow. The country often appears from far away as angry, divided, and suspicious of outsiders. Around an American game day, visitors encounter people lending chairs, sharing directions, complimenting flags, and treating an unfamiliar accent as an invitation to start talking. The welcome is rarely formal, and that is precisely why it feels sincere. Tailgating also changes the emotional rhythm of a World Cup match. Fans do not simply arrive, watch, and leave. The day develops slowly, gathering flavor like something left on a smoker since sunrise. By kickoff, the crowd has already laughed together, eaten together, and traded predictions that will look ridiculous 90 minutes later. The match becomes the center of a much larger memory. Europe gave football its historic streets, packed pubs, and magnificent supporter marches. America brings a folding table, enough food for 12 unexpected guests, and the cheerful confidence that everyone nearby should join in. Some European fans came to America expecting a tournament. What they discovered in the parking lot was an invitation to belong. The show never sleeps. By the time European supporters reach the fifth surprise, They are no longer asking whether America can host a football match. They are watching a country turn 90 minutes of sport into an entire day with its own rhythm, soundtrack, food, screens, local pride, and enough moving parts to make a Broadway stage manager ask for a quieter assignment. This is where American event culture becomes difficult to resist. Across much of Europe, the match is treated almost like sacred ground. Dortmund, Liverpool, Naples, and Madrid already have atmosphere woven into their streets, so the game needs very little decoration. The songs, rivalries, and history carry the evening. America comes from another tradition, one shaped by the Super Bowl, college football, the NBA, baseball, arena concerts, and televised events where every pause has a purpose. The country has spent decades learning how to keep thousands of people involved before kickoff, during breaks, and after the final whistle. That experience matters because a World Cup audience is very different from a regular club crowd. Many visitors are seeing the stadium for the first time. Some speak little English, while entire families may have crossed an ocean for one match. Their day cannot feel like a 2-hour appointment surrounded by traffic. American organizers understand this instinctively. Music, giant screens, fan challenges, local performers, food zones, clear announcements, and celebrations across the host city help strangers settle into the occasion before the players appear. The numbers explain why this machinery feels so polished. Nielsen estimated that Super Bowl 58 in 2024 averaged about 123.7 million viewers across platforms, making it one of the largest television audiences in American history. Producing an event for that many people requires timing so precise that even a 30-second pause has a job. When that same habit reaches the World Cup, the experience feels less like a match placed inside a stadium and more like an entire city temporarily reorganizing itself around joy. European supporters may tease the sponsorships because America can place a logo beside almost anything that remains still for more than 5 seconds. Yet the joke hides a practical truth. Commercial partnerships help pay for temporary stages, additional staff, sanitation, digital systems, family activities, entertainment, and the small comforts that keep a long day from becoming exhausting. The presentation may look glossy, but the benefit is wonderfully human. Visitors have something to do, somewhere to go, and someone ready to explain what happens next. That is where the experience becomes addictive. America refuses to leave excitement to chance. It carefully builds anticipation, then gives the crowd enough room to make the emotion their own. A supporter from Berlin may miss the raw simplicity of a German terrace, while a visitor from London may still prefer the familiar pub before kickoff. After several days in the United States, however, many begin to appreciate a culture that treats their presence as worthy of a full production. Europe protects football's soul through history and ritual. America welcomes that soul with the lights turned on, music playing, doors wide open, and the confidence of a host who has already placed 2 extra chairs at the table. The match eventually ends, but America makes sure the memory stays awake. America says welcome. The most memorable part of an American World Cup may come from someone who never touches the ball. It could be a volunteer holding a sign outside the station, a local pointing visitors toward the correct entrance, or a stranger who hears a foreign accent and immediately starts recommending restaurants with the seriousness of a federal briefing. That behavior grows from a powerful American habit. Ordinary people like helping major events feel personal. According to AmeriCorps and the US Census Bureau, approximately 75. 7 million Americans formally volunteered through organizations between September 2022 and September 2023. Another 137.5 million informally helped neighbors during the same period. Those figures explain why American hospitality often feels less like a prepared performance and more like a national reflex that accidentally put on a volunteer badge. European countries also possess strong traditions of civic service. Germany has its deeply rooted aeronaut culture, while Britain relies heavily on community volunteers at festivals, charities, and sporting events. The difference visitors notice in America is often the style. American helpers tend to approach first, speak openly, and offer 3 extra pieces of advice before anyone has finished asking the original question. For a supporter from Stockholm or Vienna, where public interactions can be polite but more reserved, that enthusiasm may initially feel almost suspicious. After several days, it becomes comforting. Getting lost no longer feels embarrassing because someone nearby appears genuinely delighted to explain the route, recommend a diner, and somehow include the life story of their cousin in Ohio. This creates an emotional advantage that no stadium blueprint can guarantee. International supporters stop feeling like customers passing through a host city and begin feeling temporarily adopted by it. The World Cup becomes a meeting between people rather than a polished event viewed from behind a ticket barrier. Years of negative coverage may have prepared Europeans to encounter an unfriendly and divided America. Instead, many meet a country that keeps making room for them in conversations, photographs, parking lot gatherings, and ordinary daily life. The welcome becomes so natural that leaving starts to feel surprisingly personal. Perhaps the greatest surprise of this World Cup is not America's size, technology, or spectacle, but the feeling visitors carry home. They arrived expecting a country divided by headlines and discovered one held together by generosity, confidence, and an instinct for making strangers feel welcome. Which American tradition would you most want the world to experience for itself? Share your answer below and subscribe to the channel as we continue uncovering the America that rarely appears in overseas news today.